Hi everybody, it's Lindsay from Fresh Start Tuition. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have mock exams coming up in most schools at the moment. Some schools have already started and other schools they'll be in the next couple of weeks. And this mock period is supposed to mimic what the real exam situation is like. So each subject teacher or head of department will create an exam paper, and then all of the students of that year group will sit that exam paper for each of the subjects that they are taking. Obviously, if you have a student who isn't taking a particular subject, like maybe technology, for example, they won't take the technology exam, they'll only take the subjects that they are studying for. But this still means that we have students that are taking somewhere between 8 and 11 or 12 examinations over a 1 or 2 week period. And the way it usually works is that they have an examination either in the morning or the afternoon slot, and if they're really unlucky, they'll have 2 in one day. So it's quite a stressful time period for our young people, and a lot rides on it in terms of their personal feelings of achievement and also how their teacher views their progress in their subject, and it affects what, if any, help is put in place in preparation for the real exams, whether that be this summer or next summer, and whether that's GCSEs or AS or A levels. So they're quite important. There are a couple of things that I thought might be helpful for preparing for the mocks that I wanted you to have a think about. One of the first things is to start early. So we're very close to the mocks, so there's not a lot of time left for revision. So if you have a young person who is only just starting, then you need to be working on the most urgent topics first, so the ones that they feel are most tricky. In terms of studying for them, a lot of students say, oh, they're only my mocks, they're not that important. But they show an understanding of where they are now and where they need to go to be able to get good results in the summer. So if they find that there are topics that they are really struggling with now, then they need to make those the top of their priority list for once the mocks are finished and they start preparing for their GCSEs or A levels. The second thing that I find is to make a plan of what they are doing. So if you have your maths mock coming up in 2 days and you have your English mock coming up in 2 weeks, then you need to prioritise over the next 2 days for maths, and then after that schedule English at regular intervals in between the other subjects that you've got to make sure that you're ready for each exam that you face and not just the one that you're most worried about, which is very often the case that we find. This plan should include things like which days you're going to work on. So let's say you happen to go to some class on a Tuesday, then on a Tuesday you might only get time to revise for one subject, so that needs to be your most urgent. Otherwise on a Wednesday you might get home from school earlier than the other nights and you're actually able to do 2 or 3 subjects. So you could schedule those on the kind of next most urgent. So a plan's quite important. It can also include how long you're going to spend studying or they're going to spend studying, and you want to schedule in break times as well. It's very important that your brain has a break to process the information that you have just tried to learn, and also a little bit of wind down time is really important. So schedule it so that you have dinner in between 2 of your subjects, or maybe that you spend half an hour watching a TV program that you enjoy or something like that. For something that can help your young person to get in the right frame of mind to study is to actually have a study space. So lots of kids will revise on their bed or sitting on the sofa when the TV's on, but they're not really in a situation where they are comfortable enough or focused enough to study well. It might be that they go into a separate room in the house where there isn't a TV to distract them. Or you might be able to have an office space that they could use for some of the time, or put a small desk into their bedroom so that it's still in their own private room, but they have a dedicated learning area as such. So make it quiet, away from distractions, and organised. Have somewhere for everything to go. You need shelving space for files or some sort of storage box to put them into, somewhere to keep all of those multicoloured pen sets that they like, and their ruler and protractor and compass set and their scientific calculator and all of the other bits and pieces that they gather. it's nice to have them in one place, and then when they go to study, they have everything they need to hand, particularly things like flashcards, a set of highlighters for identifying key points. Those are really useful when we're studying. That leads on to different methods for studying. So I mentioned flashcards, and they might work really well for lots of people, but they don't work for everybody. So you need to find a method that best suits your young person and work with that. A flashcard is a great way of identifying key points in a topic, and you can add the most useful facts, the key equations that you need, the very important diagram that you have to be able to draw from memory, and that might all fit on a flashcard. And for some people that visual cue is really important. But for others it might be a case of finding a quiet spot and then making an audio recording of themselves reading the key points of information, because for them an audio cue is more powerful than visual. For some other students, they like handwritten notes, and they will write pages and pages and pages of them, and if that's what works for them, then that's great. Make sure they have somewhere comfortable to write, and then maybe you could quiz them on what they've written on the pages, or get a little bit involved in what they're writing, ask them to explain it to you so that what they're learning is actually understood and is going in. I have a blog post about different revision tips and different ways of making revision notes that might be very useful if you're unsure about how your young person learns. When they are studying, it's important that they do have a period of time where they focus on what they're doing, but then they need to give themselves a brain break, like I've already mentioned. Approximately 20 to 30 minutes of active brain time with 5 to 10 minutes of break is a good balance. For some students, you will find that actually they can study longer than that and be quite focused, maybe 40 to 45 minutes with a 15-minute break, but your breaks get gradually longer as your study time gets longer as well. And this needs to be a complete break from what they are studying. So this is not go into another room and then be quizzed on what you're doing. That's part of your study time. This break is chat on the phone with somebody, or watch a bit of TV, or spend 10 minutes playing Fortnite on their computer. It could be having dinner with family. It could be playing with the dog outside or taking them for a walk. But it needs to be something that is wind down time, where their brain isn't going, I've got to learn, I've got to learn, I've got to learn, because it needs time to settle and to absorb the new information that they have just taken in. Some students might find that it is really useful to revise with another person of the same year group, or even a small group of people working together. A lot of parents think, oh, they're just trying to get together with their friends and they're never going to study. And in some situations that is true, but it's not always true. You might have a particular group of people who work well together for maths, and they meet and they go through the equations and they set themselves, let's try and do these 20 questions, for example, and then work through them together to find a solution. And that can be a great way of bouncing ideas off each other, and if somebody gets one part of the answer and somebody gets another part of the answer and they explain it to each other, then hopefully they will both understand the full answer. So that can work really well. And you might find that they have a particular study buddy for every subject, or it might be a different person depending on their subjects. I always studied with a particular person for chemistry, but it was somebody different in history. So it's just up to the individual. It's important that we support their brain and their body to be healthy when they're studying and preparing for these exams. It is a stressful situation. You're given a certain amount of time, you're given a test paper, and 3, 2, 1, go. And when you come out of that, you need a little bit of time to chill out, and then you need to prepare for your next one straight away. So getting into a good routine of a healthy lifestyle is also important. One of those things is to eat healthily. A balanced diet is going to give your body the nutrients that they need to make sure that everything is working the way it should. So we need a regular supply of energy, and slow release foods that, like bananas for example, are a great way of releasing energy without causing massive spikes and drops in blood sugar. They also need to get sleep. Everyone's like, oh, I was revising really hard last night. I stayed up until 3 a.m. Well, you got up at 7 to get ready for school, so that gives you 4 hours sleep. How has your brain had time to recharge? So they do need a proper sleep cycle. They need to go to bed at a normal time. They need to get up at a normal time and try to relax in that time. So don't have their schoolwork sitting out on their bed just in case they wake up and they want to look at it. That's not a good way forward. So eating healthily, getting good sleep, and doing some exercise. That could be taking the dog for a walk or going to their trampolining class or whatever it normally is. I wouldn't stop that completely. It's an important release of endorphins, and it can make us feel a little bit better, a little bit more normal, and make sure that we are ready for whatever comes next. The other thing that I would consider is looking at past papers. Each exam board has a series of past papers for each specification that they released, and these are based on previous years. So the content is usually the same or very similar depending on if the specification has changed, and they give a good indication of how the questions will be laid out, what wording they like to use, so specific command words like how is something done or explain why this happens is really important. But each exam board will also put things slightly differently. So AQA might ask a question and it's got 2 marks and they want 2 straightforward answers. But you might find that the answers are given slightly differently if you're marking for Edexcel. So it's important that they use past papers in conjunction with the mark scheme released by the same exam board so that they can see exactly what the examiners are looking for and then try to learn that answer rather than some random thing they've come up with. So that's a great way of making sure that their answers are very precise. There are lots and lots of other things that they can do for learning, but these are some of the main ones that I thought would be really important, and it would be a good idea for you to have a chat with your young person and find out where they are on this at the moment. Do they know the dates for their mocks? Maybe they've even already started. Is there anything you can do to help them with their revision? Maybe give them a little quiz on notes that they've already made. Or if they haven't started, make a plan for when they're going to do revision. Can you help them with any of that? Can they get a more comfortable working space in the next couple of days so that this process is a little bit easier? If you find that there are particular things that cause concern now in this trial run for the mocks, then you need to address those for the real exams in June, because it's only going to get more stressful, unfortunately. For students, they take the mock seriously, but they're not as big of a deal as the main exam because everything rests on it, so they are likely to get more stressed. So if you can put a process in place that works for them and lay things out in a way that suits them now, then they can get used to learning in that way before the exams so that they're well prepared. Okay, so start as early as you can with your revision. Make a clear plan of when you're going to revise and what you're going to revise. Create a suitable revision space. It can be an office, it could be just a desk in a room, it could be a corner of a room that you don't use very often. Anything like that would work. Look at the different methods of revision that we have and then find the one that works best for them and stick with it. And that might also be a series of different things. You might find that they use mind maps in conjunction with diagrams. That's completely okay. Make sure they take regular breaks. You should have about 5 to 10 minutes for every 20 to 30 minutes, about 15 minutes for every 45 minutes of study. And those breaks need to be complete changes from what they were doing. If it works for them, set up revision with a friend or a small group of friends where they can work together to find solutions. Make sure that they are taking care of their body, so that they are eating healthily, that they are getting enough sleep, they are taking some exercise, and the other one is that their personal hygiene isn't slipping. That's really important too. And finally, you can use the exam board website to find past papers and mark schemes so that they understand exactly how that exam board is asking the questions and what answers they are looking for. If you are worried about their stress levels or their mental health, then please do talk to them about it. Talk to their doctor if you're really concerned, and try to put a system in place for supporting them so that these exams do not become too stressful and cause a long-term problem. If there's anything else that I can help you with, please just send me a message. I don't not always answer straight away because I might be in a lesson, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. Have a good evening. Thanks.